good evening, and welcome to Retro Gaming Revival Live, Facebook's #1 retro gaming community, for a special bonus episode of our live stream. So before we get into that, we're just going to see who we've got with us tonight. So we've got Blunners.
Hello.
Nintendolly.
Hello, everyone.
Intelli tonight. OEB Dorbs.
Greetings.
And we're also joined from all the way from, is it LA in America? Am I right?
Orange County, California.
Orange County, California. And Guinness World Record holder and CEO and president of Intellivision Entertainment, Mr. Tommy Tallarico.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I feel like we should have some sort of round of applause coming in.
It's,
there you go. Where's the laugh track?
2 minutes past 8 over there.
Past 8 p.m. Cool. It's noon over here in the U.S.
Looks very sunny over there as well. A lot nicer than what it has been in the last few days.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I think we're just due rain for about the next month.
So, Ryan, so I'm curious how your hemorrhoids are doing.
Oh my god! We just need to end it any better than that.
I'm just going to leave the stream. I'm going to go. I wasn't here last week. I have had an operation, but it wasn't for hemorrhoids. I'm on the road to recovery now. Thank you for all the well wishes.
Well, Dobbs told me you were the biggest pain in the ass on the panel, so I had to ask.
But that really doesn't surprise me at all. But it's good to be back, and I want to thank Nintendolly for holding the fort last week. It was a really good show last week. Stastastic was a fantastic guest, and he's hooked us up with you, Tommy, who we've got with us tonight. We are going to talk the Amico Intellivision, but I think before we get into that, what I would really like to do, and I think the panel, we've discussed this before, is discuss with you your early gaming memories and where it all began for you within the video game, so your early memories of video games.
Yeah, well, I'm 53 years old, so I was our generation, Gen X. We were the first ones to grow up on video games as kids, and so my earliest memory ever, it was in 1975, and so I would have been 7 years old, and me and my dad were over his friend's house, and he had a Coleco Telstar, which is basically a Pong ripoff. I still have the exact machine that we had, and we saw it that night. And the thing, and I know you guys are younger. Are you guys all in your 20s, early 30s?
No, like late 30s.
Mid-30s.
Oh, late 30s.
Dorbs is pushing 50. But the rest of us
Early 40s. Early 40s.
Yeah, early 40s. Okay, so I don't know if any of you were old enough to remember, but like when you could turn a dial on a console and something moved on your television screen, that was like, that hadn't happened before, right? I mean, and to have that in your house, you have to remember, like only like super rich people had remote controls in the 70s. You know who the remote control was in my house? Me. Hey, my dad would say, "Hey, turn a channel." Yes, sir. Boom, and you turn the there it is. Yeah, I still have mine. And you got the vintage fake wood grain, which is epic. And so that was magic, even though it was just a rectangle and a white ball, and barely any sound. And it was mind blowing. What? You can do this? You can manipulate things on a TV set? Never seen it. So the next day, my dad went out. We bought a Coleco Telstar. A couple years later, the next system was and Intellivision. Christmas of 1980, my mom had bought an Intellivision for the house. And so when I think of Intellivision, you know, like I get tears in my eyes. I get goosebumps, you know, because that to me, so yes, I'm biased. Let's just put this up front. You know, let's just get that out of the way. But to me, when I think of Intellivision, you know, I think of my childhood. I think of playing games with my mom and with my dad and with my younger brother. I'm the oldest of three. I remember playing, my friends coming over and playing, you know. And so that's what I think of Intellivision, playing together, being together, all those early memories. My mom could just pick up and play, you know. And so those are really my earliest memories of video games, which kind of tie into the whole Amico thing. But yeah. And one other thing I'd like to also mention is kind of between 1975 and 1980, arcades were like exploding, right? So in 1977, like I can remember the day Space Invaders came out, 1978 when Asteroids came out, and me and my dad would go down to, it was called the Dream Machine. That was the name of the local arcade. I grew up in Massachusetts, Springfield, Massachusetts. And so there were two places that had video games. It was the Dream Machine, and then the local pizza shops would have them as well. I remember the first time I played Donkey Kong, 1981, I believe, or was it 82? I played that, Pac-Man for the first time at Papa Gino's pizza place. But then we also had these things called Showbiz Pizza Place, which was a ripoff of Chuck E. Cheese. Chuck E. Cheese was like pizza and video games. Chuck E. Cheese was created, though, by Nolan Bushnell, who was the founder and creator of Atari. So, yeah, so arcades were also really, really big. And again, when you're 12 years old and it's 1980 and arcades are hot and video games are hot and Star Wars came out in 77, Rocky came out in 76, Raiders of the Lost Ark came out in 80, you had Tron comes out in 81, Tron right here in 81. I mean, what an amazing time to be a kid in the late 70s, early 80s when all that stuff was coming out for the very first time. You know, it was a pretty wild time.
Was it really like Stranger Things, the TV show back then in the 80s in America? Is that a true reflection, apart from the obviously?
Yeah, apart from the upside down world, yeah. No, it was that, and you know, I think that is why. I think it's part of the reason why Stranger Things really blew up. Yes, it's a great storyline, and the characters and the acting was really great, I thought. But that sense of nostalgia, the first time I heard of Stranger Things wasn't because of the storyline or because of the cool music or whatever, or who was acting in it. It was a friend of mine saying, dude, you got to watch Stranger Things. It's just somebody my age. They said, dude, you got to watch Stranger Things. It's just like when we were growing up. You know, the banana seats on the bicycles and, you know, again, showing in television and Atari and the TV sets and everything and the wood grain paneling and the shag carpets and everything about it. And they really did such an excellent job. But yeah, that's how I first learned about it. Not because of the show or the storyline. It was because of the retro-esque of it all.
I think that really like paved the way for when we were starting to, I guess, come into video games when we were younger. So it was very late 80s, early 90s for me to play like home console stuff.
Yeah.
But definitely like arcades was a huge thing in like the early 90s for me, because it was the only way you could play the newest, coolest games, because it was never going to, like Mortal Kombat at the arcade. I remember going down to the arcade down where we are and the guy having to get a milk crate out so I could stand on that, and even the guy that ran the arcade was like, is he all right to play that with my dad? Like, yeah, it's fine. You were never going to get that on a home console until Super Nintendo, Mega Drive, and even then it was good, but it just wasn't the arcade. So no. So
and
yeah,
now
definitely.
It's so funny because now the home systems are way better looking than any of the arcade machines out there. And the only reason that the attraction to arcades these days is some kind of like environmental thing. Oh, I got to paddle a boat, or here's Space Invaders on or Pac-Man where all of us can play at the same time, or you can win tickets or whatever. But it's not about the technology nowadays. It's more about the experience, either with other people or in an environment, some kind of environmental thing where you have a physical gun or whatever,
Yeah, there's still a couple of arcades. There's one down in Southsea, which is not too far from where we live in Portsmouth. And there's still at least two that I've never seen come to like a home console. And that was, there's a Jurassic Park arcade game where you sit in a car, when you close the curtains.
Two
I've never
cars.
seen that come to home console.
Is that 3D too, or no? I'm thinking of another one, but yeah,
there is another Jurassic Park one that's got like 4D. So as soon as you start blasting a giant machine gun, all this like air rushes at you, and if the dinosaur roars at you, and the other one that I've absolutely murdered Nintendo for not bringing out is the Luigi's Mansion arcade.
I haven't played that one.
Like, it's good fun. Like it's Luigi's. It is, 4-player. Each of you get like a giant vacuum.
Random like vacuum,
and stuff. Like, I mean that would work great with motion controls, but I'm sure someone somewhere might release it at some point. They always figure it out right at the end. But yeah, those are the two things that have never come to home console that I really would like to see.
Yeah.
Cool. With the sorry, Dobbs.
So you can look to put them on the Amico if you can.
Yeah. Nintendo would love that. I'll call up Miyamoto right now. Yo, Shiggy, hook me up with Mario Luigi Mansion. No.
With the Intellivision, you're talking about your memories in the 70s. I don't think it really took off in the UK, did it, as a console? I think we were mainly Atari 2600 from...
Yeah, so to give you some numbers to compare, again, I'm not over here drinking my own Kool-Aid thinking like, oh, we were so much better than Atari. No, Atari was the behemoth. But in television, by the early 80s, we actually had 20% of the home video game console market. We were 20%. You could compare that to Microsoft Xbox last gen, right? So it wasn't like, completely like no one ever heard of it. It was bigger here in the US, but we had distribution in Japan. There was distribution all across Europe. In fact, somebody just showed me an Italian one. I'm like, I got to get the Italian one. We were in the Middle East. There's an Egyptian one. So I collect like all old Intellivisions. In fact, all of these boxes here, those are all original Intellivision games, but in shrink wrap, never opened. So there was 125 original Intellivision games that came out. So are you part of the 125 club? Is kind of the retro gamers, for the OG retro. You guys are 80s, 90s retro. I'm like 70s, 80s retro, right? I was retro before you guys were retro. No, Intellivision was doing about $500 million a year in gross, and again, this is the early 80s. So that was the equivalent of about $1.3 billion nowadays. So we had 1,800 employees worldwide. Mattel was the company that originally created Intellivision. And then in 1984, 5 employees, they wanted to sell it off. Like Atari was sold off to Warner Brothers, right, in the early 80s. Mattel was looking to sell Intellivision because the industry here in America, I don't know if the UK or Europe saw the same, but in America, they call it a crash. It wasn't really so much a crash as it was a readjustment because, they say, oh, it's the crash of 83, 84. Well, the Nintendo Famicom came out in 1983 in Japan, and it hit the shores in the US here in 1985. So is it really like a major crash, or was it more like a year-long readjustment? Then when Nintendo hit the market, boom, it was back. Yeah, a bunch of arcades closed. Fair enough, but so yeah, it was pretty popular here in the States. But yeah, 1984, 5 of the Mattel employees wanted to keep Intellivision going, so they raised about $30 million again back then, and they kept producing the hardware and the games all the way up until 1990. So Intellivision, the same hardware, launched in 1979 and ended in 1990, because by then you had the Super Nintendo and the Mega Drive, is, you know, we call it the Genesis, you guys Mega Drive.
Yeah.
So pretty incredible that we could brag saying that, you know, that in the original Intellivision was sold across 3 decades. 79 to 90, we just snuck in on both ends.
That is pretty cool, and it is when you compare that sort of money to like modern money. I know they always like adjust for. Everyone always loves the adjust for inflation argument. You know, even with movies, like the highest grossing movie adjusted for inflation's Gone with the Wind. It's something like 3 billion. So yeah, to hear those kind of numbers for Intellivision it's really cool, because for a company to have done that without really, I guess, sort of even tiptoeing much in the UK market, which to be fair probably wasn't a really big share of the game market at the time at all. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Definitely. Right, we're going to have a quick break, and then we'll hear more from Tommy. We've got plenty more questions for him, so come right back. Okay, so we've all been doing our research before tonight, and really we want to ask you the question: how did you break into the gaming industry to start with? Obviously, I've read that you worked for Virgin Interactive, and you've done music on various games, which we'll get to in a bit. But I'd just like to know how someone goes about breaking into the industry.
Yeah, so I grew up, like I said, on the East Coast of the United States, Springfield, Massachusetts, and which is about 3,000 miles away from California. But when you grow up in America, especially in the 70s and 80s, and you know, Hollywood has this like, oh, that's where you go to make it big, and that's where you go to, you know, if you want to be a star or be a, you know, and I was always into music my whole life. You know, that's kind of my, you know, my foray. I started playing piano when I was 3, started playing guitar when I was about 5. And so I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to be a composer, a musician. And you don't do that in Springfield, Massachusetts, right? You really, and my 2 greatest loves growing up were video games and music. And my grandfather, all 4 of my grandparents came from Europe off the boat in Italy. They came here in the early 1900s, right before World War I started. A lot of Italian immigrants came over, you know, like the late in the teens and, you know, mid in the teens, because of the stuff that was going on there in Italy. So a lot of people ended up leaving and coming to America. And so my grandparents were part of that. So my grandfather always told me, they said, you know, if you do something you love, if you find a career where you do something that you love, then you'll never feel like you've worked a day in your life. You know, and that always stuck with me. And so I left home. Again, I'm the oldest son of an Italian family, and if any of you are Italian or have Italian backgrounds or watch The Godfather, there's, you know, the eldest son of an Italian family is like an important thing to a you know, the first person going on to do something or whatever. And so, you know, I left my parents crying on the doorstep, and my younger brother and sister, and it was tough. It was scary, and it was, you know, challenging. But I wanted to do something so badly that because I was close with my family and still am. And yeah, it was tough, you know. But I wanted it so badly that I just got in my car and started driving. And I was by myself. I had no money. I had no friends out there in California. I was just, like I said, by myself. I didn't have a job out there. I didn't have a place to stay. Looking back now, I'm like, holy shit, was I crazy? No, but I'd do it all over in a second. But you want it so much, you know, you want something so much that you're willing to sacrifice everything that I've ever known in my life to go out to California. And I was homeless when I got to California. I was sleeping under a pier at Huntington Beach. I figure, hey, if you're going to be homeless, you know, why do it in some alley in the crappy city? The guy up there on that cliff, he probably spent 20 mil for that joint. So I'm sleeping in front of on the beach for free here, you know, and the police would sometimes kick me out or whatever. But the very first day I got to California, I picked up a job. Picked up a newspaper and saw a job selling keyboards at a Guitar Center, which is a big national guitar music chain out here. And so, you know, I kind of, you know, got the job the first day, and he said, okay, kid, you start tomorrow. And I had 3 T-shirts and a pair of jeans with me. And one of those T-shirts was a TurboGrafx 16 T-shirt. Did they call it TurboGrafx 16 over there, or is it PC Engine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it is TurboGrafx. Was it PC Engine in Europe? Everyone knows it as TurboGrafx now.
Everyone knows it's TurboGrafx. So this was a brand new machine that was coming to the US. It was 19. Oh, well, look at that. Core graphics. What's that? That's some illegal stuff you got going on. What is that? Pirate? No. And nobody had video game T-shirts back then. You know, you couldn't, you wouldn't go to Walmart, you couldn't order online. Like nobody had video game T-shirts. And so this was something really rare. How did I get it? The summer before, I made my mom take me to a fair, you know, like a local fair, because I would read all the video game magazines. And in one of the magazines, it said there's this new video game system from Japan, and you can play it before anyone else, before it's released. And so I begged my mom to please take me to this fair. And my poor mom, she drove me 8 hours to get to this fair. And she just wants to like go on the rides with her sons and stuff. And here I got her, you know, I'm making her wait in line for 3 hours in the summer, you know, just so I can play this TurboGrafx 16 thing. And I played it, and then I filled out a form. They were basically doing a focus group, right? What did you like? What do you think of the controllers? What did you think of this game? Bonk's Adventure, whatever. And when I filled it out, they gave me a T-shirt. And to me, this was like my trophy, like, because no one had video game T-shirts back then. So the first day of work in this new place that I'm in, what shirt am I going to wear? I'm going to wear my TurboGrafx shirt. So that's what I wore. The very first person who walked in that store, that music store, the first customer I waited on worked for Richard Branson, a Brit, as you all know, great Brit. And he was starting the Virgin video game company right down the street. And he saw my shirt. He goes, "Where did you get that shirt? That system is like," it was like, I don't even think it was out yet, or it was just coming out. I said, "Where did you get that?" I said, "Oh, well, I played video games and they gave me this shirt." "Really? Do you want a job?" I'm like, "Yes." "Doing what?" They're like, "Just play video games for us. And you're a professional tester," because I had this shirt, you know. And so that's how I got my job in the video game industry. I was in California 3 days, and I was in the video game industry. That was 32 years ago. And yeah, I would bug the vice president of the company every day. "Please let me do music. If you don't like it, you don't have to use it, but at least give me a shot." And the first game that I worked on was the original Prince of Persia with Jordan Mechner. And we were doing a Game Boy conversion of it. So I had to do all of the music and write new music and make all sound effects for this crazy chip. And yeah, so that's how I got in there. But, back in the old days, though, late 80s, early 90s, everybody kind of wore different hats in the company. Like it wasn't like that's all you did. Like I was writing game manuals, I was designing levels, I was producing games, doing the music for games, game testing the games, writing some stuff. So back then, everybody kind of wore different hats, which was kind of cool because you learn a lot when you're in all those different positions.
Yeah. I wish I had a cool story like that I could tell my kid about, like, what I did.
Use mine. Just use mine.
I'll steal that. I mean, to be fair, my son's 18, so there's no fooling him. He's far more intelligent than me. But I'll think that for my baby. She's like 9 months old, so I've got time to make something cool up for her.
Absolutely. Tommy, I'm curious. How many of you on the panel here have children, and if so, what are their ages? Neil, how about you?
My daughter is 22.
Wow.
My eldest son is 18, and my youngest son is 9.
And 9. Okay, 9 to 22. Ryan?
I've got a daughter who's 7 next month, so she's 6 at the moment.
Great. And then Ollie?
Yeah, my eldest son is 18. He's at college studying video game design, which is pretty cool. My middle daughter is 11, and she's just obsessed with video games as well. She's just inherited her brother's PS4. And my baby is 9 months, so she is very, very small.
Yeah,
there's Neil's son right now. How you doing? What's your name?
VR.
What is it?
VR.
How you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
Very good. I like your accent. I got an ugly American accent, but your accents are way cooler than mine.
So yeah, I've got 2 kids as well. But,
oh yeah.
Hello, yeah, I've got 2 kids as well. But my one son is 9, and my daughter's 6 next week. But my boy's already completed Breath of the Wild on his own, and my daughter's completed Mario Bowser's Fury the other day actually. But yeah, because we got like the little kiddie thing, you can basically join her, push her along, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, 0 for me.
Some would say the smartest.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, your bank balance will thank you. That's for sure.
Yeah, true. And I don't have to taxi kids around, so it works out both ways.
I bet you have the most video games out of everybody, though, right? Because you can spend all that disposable income.
Well, foolishly, I sold all my PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1 games years ago. One of the biggest regrets of my life. Devastated. Right? Absolutely devastated.
Right.
I just sold them all like an idiot. I got rid of them, and I'm slowly building them up. Slowly but
now
surely.
that stuff's PlayStation 1 stuff is now retro.
That's mad.
Think about it. It's 25 years ago. My gosh.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. I've got a question for you here, Tommy, in the chat from Essex Retro Gamer. What piece of music was Tommy most surprised and got the level of recognition it did, either good or bad recognition?
So surprised. That's a good question. I don't think I've ever been asked that before. Which one surprised me the most? Because like there's some music you're right, and it's like, oh, people are gonna like this, and you see, But what I was surprised at, good or bad? That's a great question. I got to think about this for a sec. Stand by.
You got Tommy stumped.
There was, some of the music for the Terminator on the Mega CD. I liked that music a lot because that's the style of music that I listen to. Van Halen, Aerosmith, Led Zeppelin or whatever, and that stuff's more Van Halen than anything. But Boston. That was the kind of music I grew up on and I liked. So when that won a bunch of awards, but still even today, 30 years later, people will say, oh, wow, that's one of my favorite video game soundtracks ever. So I think that, because when you write music, especially in the 80s and 90s, sounds like change, right? You know, like genres change and sound, you know, oh, you go from grunge music or you listen to like 70s music, sounds very different from like 80s synth pop stuff, which sounds very different from like grunge in the 90s, which sounds very different than, you know, so it's, you know, so to write something 30 years ago like Terminator and have people, you know, still say to me, still listen to it in my car. It still sounds modern to me. I really love the guitar or the drums or whatever. That's kind of surprising to me that 30 years later, rock and roll music is still loved by a lot of people. So I'd say from the surprise thing. I also have to bring up Color a Dinosaur, though. Color a Dinosaur is the NES game that I worked on. And this will give you a little insight about the way the video game industry used to run back then. I remember the vice president of Virgin came in my office. I worked there for 4 years before I went out on my own and started my own company. But the vice president of Virgin walks into my office and he goes, yeah, we got this NES game and we have to submit this to Nintendo tomorrow. Can you put some sound on it? So it's like,
just like that.
Wow. Okay. And the other thing to remember too, it's an NES, which I'd never written music before. So back then the audio drivers were so crap, right? And so it was really just trying to, so not only like that was the hardest part. The hardest part wasn't writing the music. It was getting the music you write to sound. Oh yeah, there you go. Look at that bad boy. And so over the years, people always ask me, what's the worst game you ever worked on, right? Because, you know, everyone always wants me to talk about, you know, the best games I've worked on. I've worked on Metroid Prime with Miyamoto for 5 years. I was on the original Tony Hawk Pro Skater team, Guitar Hero, James Bond, Spider-Man, Earthworm Jim 1 and 2, Mortal Kombat, the early Madden football games, more, you know, on and on. I was one of the first Americans to ever be hired on the Sonic franchise. And everybody always wants to talk about that, but, you know, they say, well, what's the worst game you worked on? You know, and I always say Color a Dinosaur. And what's funny is because I would always say that in interviews, it actually started to become collectible because they're like, well, we want to collect the worst video game ever, you know, so. And if you go on, and I don't know what the recent, the most up-to-date thing is, but if you go on like some of these, you know, retro websites where they sell old video games, to get like a shrink wrapped Color a Dinosaur is like $1,200 now or something. It's like $800 to $1,200, even though it was, you know, such a bad game. So the music to Color a Dinosaur though also gets brought up. So I'm surprised at that one as well. And in fact, it's funny on my Video Games Live show, on our last album that I did, Level 6, because we do level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And on level 6, one of the I did a Kickstarter for it, and one of the bonus ones was if you reach a certain amount, that I would re-record Color a Dinosaur with a live orchestra, and we did. We made that thing, so you can actually get the live orchestral version. For the 5 people who bought that, they'll be very happy. So.
But just speaking of Color a Dinosaur, I figured I'm gonna have to see how much this is going for on eBay at the moment. So there's a VGA 75, which is
not that good.
Where are we at? $8,000 if you want that right now.
Wow, really? Hold on.
Crazy.
So if anyone in the chat fancies a sealed okay copy of Color a Dinosaur, just drop $8,000. It's there.
$8,000. That's crazy.
He's going to come back with one, isn't he?
Yeah, it's probably it'll probably be sealed.
Sealed.
Mint. Shrink wrap. Perfect condition. Look at that bad.
That's amazing.
Wow.
That's unbelievable. Wow.
I have all my games in shrink wrap.
$8,000.
I've worked on.
$8,000 right there.
What's that?
That's immaculate.
$8,000 right there.
No, I mean if that's 8, this must be at least 10 or 15,000 at least, right?
definitely.
Wow. So when you're doing music for the game, what comes first, the game or the music? Are you shown the game, or are you told
That's
to
a
write
great
music?
question. For me, everybody's different, right? And for me, like, I learned how to play guitar and piano just playing by ear. So I don't know how to like read and write music. And even when I do like my orchestral stuff, I do it like from a keyboard into, computers and stuff. And then I'll hire people, I'll hire orchestrators and copyists and arrangers to kind of, do all of the creative, mathematical, like those people went to school, right? I'm more of a hot dog when it comes to, but what I do is, but again, Eddie Van Halen never took a guitar lesson, right? So who knows what the better way to go. I think it's, everybody's an individual and, does it differently. But so for me, what I would do, my method is, I wanted to play the game and I want to see how the character, what their animation is, because that helps me to get the tempo. Maybe if it's like a platform game or whatever, I want to feel the tempo. I want to feel the, and what I do is I play the game with no sound and I just wait for stuff to come into my head, to enter my head. I'll start like humming something and sometimes it's crap. And I'm like, okay, throw that idea out. And I just wait to be inspired. Like I imagine in my head, what would the most awesome music sound like in this game if I were playing it? And I try to imagine what that would be. And then once I get it in my head, I run over to my piano and try to figure out what those notes are or chords are that are in my head. And to me, that's the hardest part for me. The hardest part for me isn't coming up with the music. The hardest part is figuring out, because I don't have like perfect pitch or anything like that. So the hardest part for me is figuring out what's in my head and getting it into a computer or onto a tape recorder or, just onto a piano or a guitar. That's the toughest part for me. But yeah, that's how I do it. And everyone's different. I mean, a good friend of mine, Russell Brower, who was the head of music and audio for Blizzard Entertainment for many years. He would do like Beethoven and Mozart. He'd write on paper. He'd hear the notes in his head and is able to transcribe that onto paper. So everybody does it a little differently. But for me, like I said, I'm more of a hot dog when it comes to music theory and shit like that. Like I break every rule. And again, but that's okay. It's okay, Again, I'll bring up Eddie Van Halen because he's one of my heroes for music. And he would always say in interviews, he's like, if I went to school and they told me like what to do, like I would have never have attempted to do some of the crazy stuff he did on guitar because you're not supposed to do that, So when you have no rules and you're just doing stuff, and that's how I view like my early work on the Mega Drive and stuff like that, is there were no rules, there were no instructions. So like a game like Earthworm Jim or Cool Spot or any of those games, Global Gladiators, I was doing stuff that no other people were doing at the time, in that like I would use like the one sample channel. There was 6 audio. It was a 6-voice FM synthesis. It was the same chip that was actually used in the Yamaha DX7, which was this very popular keyboard in the 80s. But one of those 6 channels, you could thrash the hell out of it. Like it was a sample channel, and it was horrible quality. It was 8-bit, which is half of 16-bit, which is 16-bit 44.1 kilohertz. That's what a CD is. Okay, so if you can imagine half the quality of a CD from a bit ratio standpoint, but then instead of 44 kilohertz, we were doing things at 5 kilohertz, 6 kilohertz. So literally just scratchy. Well, you remember if you put in Sega, like that was pretty scratchy and that was high quality. But what I was doing is I would put samples in all of my music and sound effects so that, and I would set this priority system. So whenever something that was more important that I wanted to hear done. So for example, I would use the sample channel as a snare drum, right? Because like FM synthesis, they do snare drums. It's like, it's like really crappy. It's like really crappy. And a snare is such an important part of percussion, so like bap, bap, you get a really nice snare drum. And so what I would do is, I would use an FM kick, because FM had really nice low end and bass, So I would use that bap, boom, bap, boom, bap, and you can get a hi-hat going too, like a little just crappy FM hi-hat would actually work. And you could also use the white noise as well. What a lot of people didn't realize is that the Mega Drive, not only did it have 6-channel FM, but it also had 4 PSG voices as well. It was basically the same chip that the NES and the Game Boy had. That chip gave an additional 4 channels, but no one would ever use it. I would use it for sound effects, bling, and it was usually like, again, those little beeps and boops. But what I would do is I would use it as digital delay on my FM guitar. So, for example, if you used a really long attack and a really long decay, it would, on a sine wave, it sounds like, now I take an FM lead sound, like a guitar that I would create, and then I would put it in MIDI, and then I could take those 3 channels, because one of them was a white noise, but I could take those 3 envelope channels and I would do a delay. So I would take the 1 MIDI channel and then do like 100 millisecond, 200 millisecond, 300 millisecond delay, just copy and paste, and then assign it to those channels. And so it made it sound like reverb or delay on my guitars in FM on a Sega Genesis, which no one was hearing. And then I had real guitars and and sometimes I'd use real guitar hits, real orchestra hits, all of Jim's voices on Earthworm Jim, stuff like that. So yeah, it was, again, when there's no rules, when no one tells you what you're supposed to do or not do, that's when it becomes fun. So I always approach music and everything, my whole career, like that. Again, it's the same thing with creating a video game console. It's like, well, you can't do that. You're supposed to do this. And no, our ecosystem is completely different. Our pricing is completely different. The way we approach our developers and how they are interacting, everything's totally different. So we've just turned everything on its head, not on purpose, but because we're like, well, why does it have to be like that? Like, why does the industry have to, if you want something extra, you have to pay for it in DLC? Or why do mobile style games always have to have in-app purchases or in-app advertising or loot boxes? Or, why can't we do something different? Yeah, but Tommy, the industry doesn't do it that way. So that doesn't mean we can't, So a lot of the design things that we've put in Amico are just kind of rule breakers in a way, or maybe just people aren't as crazy or stupid as I am. Maybe that's it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just dumb. That by the way, that's the clip that the haters will take to make a meme out of.
Well, we've got to give them at least one. Got to give them at least one.
Maybe this is putting you at a bit short notice, or maybe it could be done later in the stream. Someone's put, can you play something for us, please?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any instruments here. So I was going to say, if I was on my mobile, I could take you downstairs and play on a piano. But yeah, I don't have anything nearby or an amp hooked up, unfortunately. But next time we'll have to.
Definitely.
Yeah,
next time we'll hook that up.
Before we segue into anything else, just purely because of the way you've described your process for writing certain music for certain games and stuff, I cannot let I can't let you go today without mentioning Earthworm Jim, because it is
Thank you.
Such a huge game for certainly for me, because it was one of those games I remember reading about it in magazines, seeing the images, and then when you put it in the console, heard the sound effects and especially the music, the whole game made sense. And it still is it's a great game. And the music for me on like What the Heck, I still hear that all the time. And probably
the elevator music or the Mogorski's Night on Bald Mountain part.
Oh, the elevator music, 100% the elevator music, especially with all the screaming and shouting.
You know.
And it might be because I grew up with the Super Nintendo. My friend at school had the Mega Drive, so we used to sort of have the best of both worlds at each other's houses. But it's an unpopular opinion, but I actually prefer some of the basser sounds on the Super Nintendo one, as it sounds a bit more like a bass rather than a chiptune.
It does sound more like a real bass, because I took real bass sounds, and especially the slap stuff. Bum 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 bum, boom, doo, 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 bum 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 bum, doo, 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 right? And so for that particular sound, and that was the underwater. That was that awful level. We call it the rental buster, because when people would rent. Back in the day, you could rent video games, and we didn't want people to finish the game or like go into it after 24 or 48 hours. So you put in the rental buster level around level 3 or 4, because we wanted people to buy it, because no one would ever make royalties or anything off of rentals. And so that was the underwater level, where you had to like the glass kept cracking. That level was brutal.
I don't think I ever got that far.
But that being said, the overall bass and low end in the Mega Drive was much better. It had that, because it was a beefy analog synth, right?
Yeah.
Whereas the Super Nintendo stuff was very it was very thin, not because it was a sample that had to be super duper small and you had to like loop it, so you lost a lot of that dynamic,
Yeah, just couldn't let you go without at least bringing that up.
I appreciate that. Thank you. That was a great game, because it was 10 of us, and it was like we were like 10 brothers in our I think mid-20s by that point. And we just, again, no rules. We didn't follow any rules. We didn't even have a game design for that game. We would show up at work and let's try to make each other laugh.
Yeah, you feel that with the game when you play it.
You really do, right? Because how many games? I mean, there's probably only a handful of games that you can say are humorous games that make you laugh out loud. Right? Mm-hmm. How many games out there, and a lot of reason, and some of the LucasArts stuff is great. Some of the writing in stuff like Monkey Island and things is fantastic. What those guys, Tim and those guys did. But from like a platform game that's like legit funny, it's pretty amazing to think about. And the reason all of our games had that style and sense of humor is because we never wrote the humor for the game. Keep it on this screen for a second. I'll tell you the story of this. So this is the first thing you do in Earthworm Jim, right? And this is a perfect example of how the comedy made the game, not, oh, here's a game, how do we write jokes in it? So we were all sitting around a table, and I forget who it was. I mean, it was, 28 years ago or whatever, but somebody says, hey, what would be funny is at the very beginning of the game, we launched like a chicken, and every single level, because why a chicken? Well, because chickens are funny. And I remember saying, and they make funny sounds, you could launch them and you go, and he would scream and his eyes would bulge and his feathers would go all over the place. That's pretty funny. Yeah. And wouldn't it be funny, though, is like you launch him at the beginning of the level, but he would appear just randomly somewhere in every single level at the end, till the end of the game. Wouldn't that be hilarious? And we're like laughing, like, yeah, no one's ever done. That'd be funny. And then somebody says, but wait a second, because chickens fly and stuff like that. And chickens are funny, but what's more funny is if we like launched a cow, Like what if we like what if we launched a cow in the air, and then and the legs are all over the place, and I'm like, yeah, and I remember saying, and of course cows make funny sound, moo, that's a funny sound too. You can make that. That's pretty funny. And then somebody says, oh, what would be great though, is that because cows are heavy, what if at the end of the game you finally save the princess, but then the cow just kills her, smacks right down on her. And then of course later on, and I don't want to, no spoilers for Earthworm Jim, but later on, what if it was just somebody in a cow suit? And I won't give away the ending. And that's how it goes on. But then we're like, okay, but how do you launch a cow? And the obvious answer is, well, you put them on a seesaw, a teeter-totter, right? That's what you do. And it's like, okay, so is the first level then he's in a park because he's on a seesaw? That kind of, what other things teeter like that? Because that's not very funny or fun, and people are like, and then how's he gonna? So is Jim just gonna jump on him because cows are way heavier? Well, okay. Well, maybe hold on now. Maybe it's a teeter-totter, but maybe Jim shoots something or whips something that's really heavy, and that launches the cow. Ah, okay. Well, what's really heavy, and what's funny? Well, is it a car? Maybe. Nah, that's not fun. Maybe it's a kitchen sink. That's kind of funny. Wait, what if it's just like a refrigerator? Because why would there be a refrigerator launching a cow? Oh, because maybe we're in a junkyard. Boom, and that's how level 1 was a junkyard, right?
That's amazing.
So we didn't sit down and say, hey, let's design level 1 and it should be a junkyard. No, it was all based around this joke of launching a cow because it's freaking hilarious and it made no sense, and that's how we designed it. And guys, this is the exact same approach we're now taking to the new Earthworm Jim. I got the original team, as you guys probably know, got the original team back together. And we are doing, when I say it's exclusive on Intellivision Amico, I'm not messing around. It won't be on any other system. I'm sorry. All of you are going to have to buy an Amico just to play that game. But what we're doing, though, is that we're using the controller and we're using humor in the controller. So when we designed the game, we didn't start with a level design or this and that. We just started writing jokes, writing funny things. What would be funny, and using this controller to do so. So again, speaker, as a speaker, it has a microphone. The lights light up. The buttons light up. There's a color capacitive touch screen. You can see the ball moving around. We have a gyroscope and an accelerometer. Right here's the touch screen. And this is a 64 position disc, so you can see it there. 64 positions, and you'll see that green bar at the top. That's actually, when I press it, it's
pressure sensitive.
It's touch sensitive as well. So 64 positions and touch sensitive. So it's kind of like a cross between a D-pad and an analog stick in a way, right? But a lot more simpler to use than an analog. And so again, if you can imagine, what are some of the funny things that we could do when you have a microphone and a speaker and lights and motion control and a screen, and everybody else in the game has a screen as well? Think of all the funny, fun things that we can do. And that's why, it's exclusive for Intellivision, because the game that we're creating, and I mean this in all 100% seriousness, the game we're creating cannot be played on any other system. It just can't. It's not to say that Intellivision is a better technology or a better this or a better that. Look, again, I'm not sitting here drinking my own Kool-Aid. We're not competing with Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo. We're not competing with PC games. You know what's more of my competition is like a deck of cards and a board game or in a puzzle. You know, we're competing for family time. Netflix is probably more competition to me than a PlayStation 5. My father, who I grew up playing video games with, he can't play video games with me anymore. Can't happen. You know, how sad is that? I want to play video games with my dad still, and he wants to play with me. But for him, who's now 80 years old, a PlayStation 4 controller is a non-starter. Even a Nintendo Switch controller, it's a non-starter. Now, my dad can tap on screen, and you can show him this and say, Dad, when you hit down and you go down, and of course he remembers in television anyway, but you know, this is up, down, left, right. It's not complicated buttons. It's not, you know, all of our games, we try to have maybe one button. Okay, possibly two. And for some of our games that are more targeted to like gamers like yourselves, maybe we might have three, right? But the idea is to create games that are super fun, that are super easy to pick up and play. Now, people can easily say, and I again, I'm not going to argue with anyone about this. They say, yeah, but you know what? Your stuff looks like a bunch of mobile games. Okay. That is no insult. In fact, that is for those who might not be aware, who are listening to the numbers, is that there's 3.1 billion people who play mobile games every day, yet there's only 200 million people that play consoles and PC games, hardcore PCs, the master race, you know.
Yeah.
So that means, guys, that less than 7% of all the people in the world that are playing video games, less than 7% of them are actually playing on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and Switch. Mm-hmm. Now, again, to all of us on this call, when we think of video games, what's the first thing that comes to our head? It's not Solitaire. It's not Angry Birds. It's not Candy Crush. It's Halo and Mario and Zelda and Uncharted and God of War or whatever. Call of Duty, Fortnite. This is our programming and thinking, because we're all hardcore gamers. Let's face it. If the six of us are talking about video games on YouTube Live right now, I got news for all of you. We're hardcore. We're hardcore gamers, right? That's fact. And so, so if you step outside that bubble for a second, right, and you say, all of the hyper casual and casual gamers out there, where are they playing? What are they playing? Mm-hmm. What is the other 93% of the entire world? So again, I don't want to try to compete with Sony, Microsoft, or Nintendo. I'm not stupid. You know, I'm not over here drinking my own Kool-Aid, you know. But there is a gaping hole in the video game industry, which is this. All the hyper casual gamers are playing this. Now, you can say, well, Tommy, you know, that's convenient. Everybody's got one in their pocket. Fair enough, right? But when you start to look into why 3 billion people are playing this and why those people that like video games, why aren't they playing on a Switch or a PlayStation or an Xbox? When you start to look at that data and dig deep, you'll see the same thing over and over and over and over again, which is, so 3 billion people who play this, why don't you play a home console? They don't say, oh, because this is easy because it's in my pocket. You know what they say? The controls are too complicated. The games take too long for me to understand and get into, the ramp up. Right? They're too expensive. They're again, it's complicated is like the number one thing. They're too violent. Now, again, we know as gamers that all video games aren't violent and this and that. It's this false narrative that the media has perpetrated, right? In fact, if you look at the ESA.com, that's the Entertainment Software Association, which in television is a proud partner of, and everyone, Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, all the biggest EA, you name it, they're all part of the ESA. And you can look at the data, and I think it's 80% of all video games are rated E for everyone, or over there, you guys are PEGI, right? PEGI
yes,
7
PEGI
or
for Europe.
PSK?
Yeah, it's PEGI for pretty much all of Europe.
Yeah, so it's like 80% of all video games are PEGI 7, right? Or whatever that is. But there's this dark cloud over the video game industry that, video games are violent, right? And they're expensive, right? So for a family of 4 to want to play a couch co-op game on the PlayStation 4, let's not even say 5, because 5 you're looking in the thousands of, over £1,000. Am I right? At this point. But even a PlayStation 4, okay, $300, but you have 3 more controllers, okay. Now you have to find the game. So again, if for somebody in middle America, we call it, right, where, the average person household in the U.S. spending $400, $500, sometimes $600 to play a 4-player game, and then where do you play? How do you know which game is co-op on the PlayStation 4? Well, you'd have to go and Google it. That's fair enough, fine. And then what casual game will you find when you Google casual couch co-op for a Nintendo Switch or PlayStation? You'll get a game like Overcooked, right? It's a pretty, or maybe a Mario Party, Mario Kart on Nintendo. But for PlayStation, Xbox, say a game like Overcooked. And I personally love Overcooked and I love the developers. But what's casual to a gamers like us is not casual to non-gamers or hyper-casual gamers or people that play this. So my wife is a perfect example. She's 35 years old. She grew up playing Pokemon. She loves Pokemon. She loved all the movies. She'd watch the cartoon religiously. But she doesn't play video games anymore. Mostly for all those exact reasons I mentioned. They're too complicated. There's nothing that interests her either. She's not interested in Call of Duty or Red Dead Redemption. She'll watch me play, but not for very long. What can we play? And so you say, well, hey, hon, why don't we sit down and play this casual couch co-op game? It's called Overcooked, and it's really cool. Now, to her, she starts playing the game, and she says, so wait, in this game, I have to cook and clean? I don't like to do that in real life. Why the hell do I want to do it in my video game? I'm like, oh, fair point. And she says, and there's like this 2-minute timer, and it's always like, go, 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 go. Hurry up, rush. She says, look, I do that in my daily life. I just want to unplug. I just don't even want to think about it. I just want like small endorphin hits. Now you understand why a game like Candy Crush is so popular, right? You can just unplug and you're just matching 3 and there's no real time limit. It's like, okay, you have a certain amount of moves, but it's like, it's rare that you run out of moves, right? Unless you're like way, way up there. But and so that's the thing to think about. When you think about Amico and who it's for and what it's about, every single one of our games is couch co-op or has some kind of multiplayer versus mode. Every one. It's a requirement. Every one of our games is easy pick up and play. You don't have to learn a manual. We don't come with manuals. None of our games have manuals. If I can't explain it to you in under 20 seconds, then it doesn't belong on our system. It doesn't matter what type of gamer you are, you still have the same amount of victory as somebody who's been playing it for a year. That's a big problem with the video game industry right now, right? even though we might be great gamers, the first times that we played Fortnite, we got our asses handed to us, and we still probably do, some of us,
still
right?
do now.
Yeah.
It took me a day to finally figure out all the controls in Red Dead 2. And I love Red Dead, right? And then, because I'm older, I didn't play the game for 12 hours, right? I played it for a couple hours. Okay, finally learned. And then I go back to it 4 days later, and I pick up the controller. What happened to me? I forgot what all the controls are.
Yeah, totally.
Right? And so our whole idea, now, guys, and anyone watching and listening to this, please don't mistake what I'm saying. I'm not saying that there aren't super hyper casual games on other systems. I'm not saying that, right? But what I'm saying is the majority of couch co-op games that appear on home consoles are not what a hyper casual gamer would consider a hyper casual game, or a non-gamer. But I'm not saying they don't exist. What I'm saying is that our entire focus of our entire machine is based around that, is based around people getting together who normally may never play a video game to come together to play video games. I know our graphics aren't as good as PlayStation, Microsoft, and Nintendo. And if somebody says, Tommy, your graphics are like mobile graphics, that you know why that's a huge compliment to me? Because the video game industry, it's a $170 billion a year industry, and we've seen double-digit growth for the last 30 years. That means 10% or more every year for 30 years, the game industry goes up. And then during a worldwide pandemic, what happens? 23% up. Talk about a bulletproof bull market industry, video games, right? Now, out of that 170 billion, there's three factions. There's mobile, there's home console, and there's PC. You want to know how that $170 billion split up last year? I'll tell you. 55% of it was mobile. 25% of it was home consoles, Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo. 20% of it was PC gaming. So that means that mobile almost triples the amount of money that PC gaming. It more than doubles money-wise what the hardware manufacturer, and that includes hardware and the software, the $70, $80 games. Mobile still blows it away. And people say, but aren't mobile games free? You know what the average person in America spends on mobile every year? $93. So are they really free? Now, again, to us guys, we're stubborn. If we play a mobile game, we're like, I'll wait till my tickets, I'll wait 3 hours till my tickets load up or my coins load up again. I don't care, right? My wife, she's not waiting for anything. Oh, the unicorn? I can get it now for $5? Well, hook me into that. Boom, sold. Women are very, very different. Now, this is a statistic that'll also probably blow you away. That $170 billion, which, by the way, is bigger than the movie industry and the music industry combined. For entertainment dollars, there's nothing bigger. Out of that $170 billion, who do you think purchases? Let me word it a different way. How much of that money, that $170 billion, how much of that money is spent by women? Give me a percentage. Would you say 30% of that $170 billion is by women? Would you go as high as 50%? Tell me, what do you think? Now, obviously, it's going to be a higher number because
Dobbs would say zero when you're Dobbs.
Zero. Dobbs thinks it's 0%.
We agree not to discuss that. We agree not to mention that ever again.
I'm watching you, Dobbs. I'm watching.
I know.
And we
it's
can
gonna
talk
be a
about
big
that.
figure,
We can talk about that because Dobbs might be right. You don't know.
45.
You know, but I'll tell you the number. It's over 80%.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
80% of all money that is spent in the video game industry is spent by women. Now, I didn't say played by women. In fact, if you look at the overall numbers, it's 51% male, 49% female. So it's bigger than we all think. Now, consoles, and obviously you're going to see higher male to that. But again, in mobile, women blow men out of the water in mobile. They're spending more, they're playing more on mobile. So when you say to me, if somebody says, oh, well, those look like mobile games, you mean the thing that's triple what the PC
the most
does?
popular,
You mean the kind of games where more people spend more money than any place else in the world? Is that what you want to compare me to? Okay, I'm good with that. And so the design of our games and the design of the look and style and feel and the design of our hardware was based around that. Was based around the fact that, look, I'll give you another example. Take Wii bowling. We all know Wii bowling.
Yeah, classic.
Now think of your moms or your wives or your grandparents. If they had two choices, one was Wii bowling, where it was cartoon graphics and they could go like this and they bowl the ball. Or it was on a PlayStation 5, photorealistic everything, teraflop, gigaflop, reflection lighting off the freaking thing, the wax on the ball and the marks on the ball, and then you had to throw the ball, the meter goes up, you have to hit the button, and then it goes really quick and you have to hit it at exactly the right time. What bowling game does the average person want to play? Go ahead, tell me. We every time, right?
Yeah.
So again, when you look at our machine, you might say to yourself, boy, this sucks. It's really expensive and this and that. Now, I could have done a machine with no controllers and no games in it, and I could have put it out for 150 quid. Could have done that. But what our market research and our retailers tell us is that the audience that we are going for, our target audience, moms, families, non-gamers, gamers, they want an all-in-one package. And they're willing to pay up to $249 to do it. And so we pack in 6 premium games. We pack in 2 controllers. Plus, you can download our free app and hook up to 6 more controllers for a total of 8 people at once. You can all of our games, we don't have in-app purchases. We don't have loot boxes. We don't have in-app advertising. You pay $9.99 or less one time and you keep it forever. And we don't do DLC or any of that stuff, right? All of our games are family friendly. No blood, no gore, no violence. We don't do our games for online gaming. So if you're a parent wondering, who's that talking to my kid on Roblox or Minecraft, right? There's a toxic online environment that people don't talk about a lot, but we all know it's true, right? And we worry
100%.
about our kids, who they're talking to, who's doing this, what new bad swear word are they going to learn today? You know, we don't allow that. So our system is safe, simple, affordable, family entertainment. And so that's kind of our value proposition to everyone out there. We're doing things differently, guys. And you know, and our marketing will be very important. Is it going to work or is it going to not? Well, we won't know till it comes out, but I can tell you that our focus testing is absolutely off the charts. It's off the charts. And so, although you guys may not be the core, our initial core audience because you're hardcore gamers, right? Although you might not be our initial core audience, I think that once you guys get one in your hands, right, and you play it, you're going to think to yourself, you know what? This is something I could play with my wife or my daughter, or or my non-gaming friends. Because when your non-gaming friends are coming over, non-gaming friends, you're not playing Fortnite. Maybe you'll whip out Mario Kart, right? Or maybe you have an old Wii hanging around and you're playing Wii Bowling or Wii Sports or something. The other biggest thing, though, guys, here's the differentiator. Here's maybe the light bulb moment. Remember how I said 3.1 billion gamers on this, all playing hyper-casual games. But what's the problem with this? The problem with this is there's zero curation. So there's 1 million new games a year. You don't know where the hell. There's so much stuff, it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
2, this kind of sucks as a controller and a screen together, right? So the most simplest of retro games is Pac-Man. Up, down, left, right. That's it, you're done. Up, down, left, right. Simple game, simple controls, yet it sucks playing it on this simple system. You can't, because your fingers trying to go up, down, left, right. It's terrible. And your screen is your finger's right in the middle of the screen. How are you supposed to play the simplest arcade game ever? You can't play it on here, right? So wait a second. I thought this was for simple people to play simple games. You can't play a simple arcade game, okay? So it sucks as a controller. And let's face it, it's a money suck. Let's not fool each other. Oh, all the games are free. Yeah. And then if you don't give them your email address or your credit card or your PayPal account, then you're going to get a 30-second ad every 3 minutes, right? Yeah. And those games are designed around trying to suck as much money out of you as possible. Make no mistake, it's not a conspiracy theory, right? How can we end the game at a certain point or get them so that they have to spend money? That's how games are being designed now. And we see it sneaking into consoles now, aren't we? Monthly this, download that, loot boxes. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This is where we want the video game industry to go? How about we bring it back to the roots when we were all growing up, where there was no DLC, there was no online, there was no, you have to buy this, you have to buy that, you have to explain this, you have to explain that. That's all I'm doing. But the biggest thing, every single hyper-casual game on there is solitary. With the exception of like Jackbox and Space Team. There's a couple of games. But out of the millions of games that are on there, guys, everybody's staring into their fucking phones.
Yeah.
Everybody is staring into their phones. Kids, the number one concern of young parents, and more than half of you are parents with young kids. The number one concern in the 21st century of young parents? That they give their kids too much alone screen time. Would all of you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, especially with certainly my daughter, my 11-year-old. It's. I mean, when we were young, you if you wanted to be, you all wanted the same things, didn't you? So for us, it was mainly things like Game Boy, and then it was like a Walkman and all that kind of stuff. For kids now, it's a phone.
And we went outside and played, didn't we? And we read books, and we went places with our parents, and COVID's only made it worse, right? And so a whole new generation of younger kids, they're growing up in a different environment where this was their babysitter, this was their educator, this is and I mean, I hate to say they're turning into zombies because that's too much of a overshoot, but that interaction that we all had when we played video games growing up, because if you wanted to play 2 players in a video games when we were all growing up, guess what? You had to have a second person. Now, I also want to say this to you guys. I want you to think of your greatest video game memory of all time. When you think of your best memory, I guarantee, and I could be wrong, I guarantee is what is your fondest memory of playing gaming memory is when you were playing with other people at the same time.
I can relate to that.
Totally.
Fairly recently, playing on my PS5. I'm not really a great fan of playing online. I'll play with like Dorbs occasionally online or others, but my friend came around, picked up the second controller, and we played Pro Evolution Soccer against each other. And I thought, wow, this is like a real novelty. And having him in the room with me was just brilliant.
It's different, isn't it? It's just different.
It is.
Yeah.
And think about, maybe it was GoldenEye on the N64. Maybe it was Mario Kart on Super Nintendo. Maybe it was Bomberman on Dreamcast or whatever. That couch co-op stuff, that is the focus. You go on our website and you'll see our motto in television: together again.
Yeah.
You know,
on these streams, we normally have a feature that says, "What do you remember of this system?" or "What do you remember of that system?" And every time, my memories of the system we're talking about at the time is going around a friend's house, playing with a friend, never playing on my own, always going and playing with a friend. That's my main memory of playing systems.
Yeah.
Now again, Ryan is a bit of an anomaly, right? PlayStation 5. He's got a friend coming over because, you know, again, more of a hardcore gamer, right? Think about there you go. Think about the average person. When do you think the last time they played video games together with people were? Right?
Oh, yeah.
A lot of them, it was the Nintendo Wii 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Some of them, it was 30 years ago in college on the Super Nintendo, you know? And so, again, it's solitary, it's expensive. If you're, you know, you want to keep upgrading, it's a money suck. The games are designed to sucker you in, zero curation. So if you want to compare us graphically to mobile, I have no problem with that, because this is what people are accustomed to already. And like my Wii bowling thing, our audience would rather play more simple looking cartoony games than they would photorealistic games, right? And so that's our sweet spot. That's our goal. Think of us, consider us like you have mobile here and like the Switch here. Consider us somewhere in the middle. That's where we want to be. We think that there's a really big audience that likes playing video games, but feels that Switch, PlayStation, and Xbox are too complicated in their living room. That's not you guys. But again, I think you'll buy it eventually as a third or fourth system in your house. Just like many of you might have bought the Wii for that reason. Like, oh, you know what? When my mates come over who don't play games, we can all play a drinking party game or something like that. Whatever.
I'd buy it to get me and my 9-year-old back around the TV together, playing the same game.
That's the value proposition, guys. That's it in a nutshell. So, yeah. Now, I do want to mention though. I do want to address this because I think it's fair. And I'll say this publicly too. What I appreciate and like about you guys is that whenever you've spoken about Amico, you know, you may not have been sold on it, you know, but you were always respectful. You know, and I've heard each one of you, I think, at a certain point say, who's this for? What's this about? Games look like shite. But you know what? I hope they do well. I hope they succeed. And so I just wanted to give you all my personal thanks, because, you know, we sometimes live in this modern world and social media and, you know, all this stuff where it seems to be cooler to be negative, and it's cooler to have drama, and it's cooler to hate, right? You know? And so, but you guys have been keeping it real. Hopefully today you've heard some things you were like, okay, yeah, I can kind of, maybe this is something that I might be interested in down the road. I don't know. I'll give it a shot. Maybe it is something, you know, but I do, because one of the things you guys have talked about in the past is this thing going to be ready for October? And let's talk about that. Yeah, but lately you've all been going down to zero. So you can't.
We're getting there.
No, I've always said, Tommy. I said from day one, 100%. No, 100% all the way.
Just missed the 1 and the 0 off your previous prediction.
That's right.
I think you went below 0% at one point, Dorbs.
I went what? Sorry.
I think you went below 0%.
No, not me. No.
You can't go below 1. Now, Dobbs, have you been 0% the entire time? So you just don't think it's ever going to come out?
Well, I think at the minute there's an issue with chips, importing chips from China. Yeah. So that may cause a delay.
Oh yeah. No, but I'm saying, do you think it'll eventually come out sometime ever?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I thought you were saying 0%, like it's never going to come out.
No, because
no. But let's talk about So let's talk about where we are today. Okay. Here's the situation, and I'll give daily updates to people if they want, because if nothing else, I've always tried to be transparent from the very beginning, and truth be told, sometimes that gets me in trouble, because I'll say something 3 years ago that was true at the time, but then things started to change, and now people can go back and they say, he's a liar. Look at that. He's a liar. Well, no, not when it's true at the time and things change. Yeah. I'll give you an example. Originally, on our very first trailer and our original specs, we thought we were going to have 16 gigabytes internal storage. Well, now there's 32. Call me a liar, I guess. Originally, I thought there was going to be a resistive touch screen, but instead we did the much more expensive and accurate capacitive touch screen. Call me a liar, so it goes both ways, right? So sometimes we'll say, yeah, but you said you were going to have this. Yeah, but we took certain things out so that we can make things better. As you're creating this, the process changes. And because I'm always so open about this and that, things change and people say, well, you said this back before and now it's changed. Yeah, because that's the reality of being an honest, transparent person along the way, And so where are we at right now? The biggest thing is securing components. Dobbs absolutely hit it out of the park. 100%. Anyone can go online right now, Google Ford Motor Company, Google Sony PlayStation, Google phones, Google cars, Google anything that needs a GPS chip. Google. The reality is that it is getting impossible to get the components necessary to create hardware right now, especially video game consoles. Our console Amico has 700 parts in it. Over 100 of those are electronic components. If one of them is missing, we can't go into production. Currently, 4 of them are giving us problems. 2 of them just came up within the last week because we thought we had it down to 2, and then 2 really silly things that in a million years you would think aren't scarce. All of a sudden, they're scarce and people can't find them. So we have 2 choices then. Our choices are this. Do we grossly overpay for some of this stuff and then lose money on our console? You know how much Sony lost on the PlayStation 5 this past Christmas? $100 a console. That's public information because they're a publicly traded company. You know how many they sold over Christmas? 4.5 million units. That's public information. Do the math on that, gentlemen. $450 million they lost over Christmas. Now, do you know how much they're losing now? The rumor is, because they're trying to manufacture and things are just getting worse, could be up to $200 a console. And they're starting to crank them out again. Guys, we're not Sony. We're not Microsoft. We're not Nintendo. I can't compete with those guys in bank account. I can't compete with them in marketing power. I can't compete with them in technology. I can't compete with them in infrastructure. I can't compete with them in world-known IPs and names that they have and own. But here's where we can compete with them. Ideas. That's where we want to compete with them. All the ideas. You know that in our controller, you can take your Amico controller. Dobbs, you can take this and you can go over Neil's house and you can dock the controller into his system and you'll be able to play all of your games because it recognizes that it's your controller. You can play all of your games on his system for free.
Do you know, this was one of the biggest things.
That's an idea.
This is one of the biggest things I think that came out of the stream we did with Pete last week, and he mentioned that thing, and I think pretty much all of us went, "That's a really good idea." Like that's the kind of thing that for me, in my certainly my mind, it really just makes you think that's cool. That's different. It is a unique selling point for me, to be honest.
Again, imagine just having a screen on every single controller. You know, one of the most popular video games of all time is poker video games. It's one of the most, most played games out there are card games. Solitaire is the biggest. Poker is the second biggest. Now, when you play Texas Hold'em or any kind of poker game, have you ever been able to play a poker video game in a room with people co-op ever?
No.
Nope. So wait a second. The most popular played video game in the world, and what's the fun of poker? It's being in the same room with people. It's throwing down that straight flush on your buddy, going in your face, bitch. It's trying to read to see who's bluffing, reading people's faces, right? Yeah. Isn't that the best part of poker? Yet no one's been able to do it before until now, where everybody has their cards in their hand, right? Even a dice game where you take the dice and you shake the dice. You can see the dice here, and you shake the dice, and then you throw it up. And when you throw it, the dice go from your controller, and you can see them, boom, it travels right up onto your TV screen. Just that one little thing. It's like, I've never seen that. That's kind of cool, and so it's those little things. So, guys, it's ideas. That's where we can compete because we're a smaller company. But here's what I'd say to you. Look, we don't have the buying power of all those people. And we can't afford, we'd be out of business. So we either have to wait and pray that components come down.
Yeah.
Because we can't afford to go out of business, by selling, we have 100,000 pre-orders and purchase orders already, and we haven't even spent $1 on advertising or marketing. We haven't, the only people who know about us are people who kind of follow video games. We haven't even, the people who are going to sell to our target audience, they don't even know we exist yet. They don't. So although I'm up every single night, and our whole team trying to find out, gosh, we got to get out this October. We got to happen. But the reality is the people who are going to buy us the most don't even know we exist yet. So that's a little comforting, but not really, because we have overhead and we have 50 employees and we're pre-revenue. And so I keep having to raise money. Whenever we delay, that costs us millions and millions and millions of dollars. So I have to go out and raise that money. We've raised $17 million so far, and we didn't need that much last year, but because of COVID. So make no mistake, no one wants to get this sucker out more than we do, right?
Yeah.
But, when we're in a worldwide pandemic and this happens, stuff like this happens, it's difficult. What we're trying to do is we have 2,600 Founders editions, which sold out, by the way, in under 5 hours, and those were $300. And there's a bunch of extras, and they're hand numbered and signed by me. Everyone is hand numbered and signed, and you get a $50 gift card that you can go buy games with, and it comes with a lenticular 3D poster that's signed by everybody who made the console and everything. A lot of cool stuff. It comes with a patch and a Founders pin and all this stuff. And so if I have to take the loss on those, because we're already kind of taking a loss, if I have to take a loss on those, I got to do everything in my power to get this thing out this fall, just for my own comfort. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to come out with 100,000 consoles when we launch on October 10th. That's my goal. That's my dream. But, I'm with Dobbs on this one. Getting 100,000 units out there at this point, knowing what I know, look, we have till July. That's when we have to be in production with all of our components secured. That's when we have to have everything secured in order to be out, in order to go into manufacturing and to get out on the market by October on the store shelves. I need to have everything by July. We've started buying components last November, but so hit me up in July, and I can tell you where we're at, and I'll always be honest and upfront with people. And I'm giving information as it's coming. And the idea though, so people again, they hit me sometimes hard because they say, well, look at your trailers, like they look like garbage. But it's like part of this is kind of like a diary, because we're different, because we're the underdog. If nothing else, guys, root for the underdog, for crying out loud. Like, hope that we win, hope that we're successful. Hope, and you guys always have done that, which has been great, and I appreciate it.
I'm always root for the underdog. Obviously, I'm a fan of All Elite Wrestling. They're the underdog to WWE. I'm a Southampton soccer fan and Blunners as well. We lose most weeks, so we're
every week.
I think it's possibly one of, aside from lining up and queuing for things, I think the underdog supporting is possibly one of the most British things that can happen.
That's true, isn't it?
Yeah. We glorify losers in this country, don't we? That is what we're known for. If someone loses,
so the Ouya was big over there then.
It was sorry.
So the Ouya was big over there then.
Yeah.
It's we do though, don't we? But there's always something that's happening with someone who's not at the top of their game, and they're the person that the British end up championing and getting behind. You see it all the time with people raising money for charity or something. It's always someone who's not the famous, not the footballer, not this, that, the other. It's always someone who's
there
well
is
known.
one exception though. There is one exception, which is, because I'm a big Formula One fan, which is rare here in America because not a lot of people are Formula One fans. There is one exception, boy. I tell you what, Lewis Hamilton is the greatest of all time.
But then he's not a well-liked Brit, I don't think.
Really?
I think people like him because he's a winner.
I love Lewis. He's wicked.
Yeah.
But if he kept coming second and couldn't quite win a world championship, I think people would like him. They would respect him more because he'd be the plucky underdog.
Well, Nico got him a couple years ago, but he and again, that's very hard for me to say because I'm a Ferrari fan, right? Italian Ferrari.
Italian, yeah.
Mercedes has just been kicking our butts for the last 10 years straight. It's horrible, but anyway, but I love Lewis. You got to respect the guy, whether you whatever. He's just he just doesn't make mistakes. Anyway, so yeah, you know, that's the up to the date moment. We're looking at we're scrambling to get 4 components that we can't find, and that big play. And by the way, let me just say too, even though we're a small company, we do have one of the biggest contract manufacturers in the world manufacturing for us. But it don't matter. It is an absolute shit show over there right now. And again, you guys know that. You know I'm not bullshitting. You know I'm not spinning some yarn or this and that. If it's affecting Ford and Microsoft and the airlines, then what are we with our little 100,000 units here? Guess who's at the back of the line? Guess who doesn't have the money in bank account to bid 3 times more than what everybody else is bidding? It's us. So, you know, look, we're going to use the time to keep making it better and polish everything. But in regards to the games, people might look at some of our games and go, God, those are crap. They look like Flash games. Yeah, they did when I first showed them 2 years ago, but that's part of the journey. I want to take people along, just like a Kickstarter project, right? Yeah. Where, oh, look, we're showing you how this is all being made. And again, guys, I get hit for it every single day. Oh, these games suck. Blah blah blah. This is crap. I'll be able to negative. Because I'm taking you along for the journey, you know. And look, until the system's out and you have it in your hands and you can play it, don't judge the games and judge the system. You know, a final judgment. You can say, nah, it's not for me. Fair enough, but. You know, how many people hated the Wii before they put their hands on it? How many people hated the Switch? You guys remember people, oh, Nintendo should get out of hardware. They're this stupid Switch thing, blah, 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 blah. Oh, now, but it passed the 360, didn't it? I mean, the Xbox One, didn't it?
Yeah.
You know, so that I would just ask everyone to check it out. You might enjoy what you see. Maybe you don't if you're a hardcore gamer. But you know what? Give us a chance. Play it for free over someone's house or at some kiosk or at some mall tour. Give it a shot. That's all. Keep an open mind and root for the underdog. That's all I would ask for.
Yeah.
What I would ask is how do you plan to market it in the UK? Obviously, COVID at the moment, things are gradually starting to open up again, and we're by the middle of next month or towards the end of next month, we should be pretty much back to normal. So what are your plans to market the Amico? Yeah, definitely, fingers crossed. Your plans to market it within the UK to reach a wider audience?
That's great, yeah. And so for us, you know, we have different, you know, we have these amazing marketing spreadsheets, right? And there's a lot of different partnerships we have. There's a lot of different levers that we can pull. But until you know how many you have on the store shelves, how do you decide when and where to pull certain levers? So, for example, if I have an influencer that has 15 million followers and subscribers, do I want her to do hey, here's this thing called Intellivision Amico that you're going to love, but I only have 2,500 units in the UK? Would that be smart of me? No, that would be dumb, right? Should I start to spend money on BBC and Sky Arts and to run 30-second ads on family programs if I only have 10,000 units across Europe? No, I'd be an idiot, right? We have partnerships with Mattel, with Hot Wheels, Major League Baseball, Sesame Street, Care Bears, Harlem Globetrotters. You know, these are big licenses. We have over 100 million families that we have just in our partnerships. Now, do I want Mattel Hot Wheels to tweet all about us if there's only 20,000 systems out there? Wouldn't I rather wait till there's hundreds of thousands or 1 million machines out there and then pull that marketing trigger? That would be the smart thing to do. So it's a tough question for me to answer because I don't know the answer right now because I don't know how many we're going to have out there. But to generalize and answer your question, our big thing is going to be word of mouth and influencers. We have to get this in people's hands. If I do a billboard or a magazine ad in Edge magazine, it's not going to help me. Not going to help me because people are going to look at our screenshots and our trailers and go, looks like a mobile device. I can get those for free, right? Mm-hmm. Can't play them couch co-op, but okay. But again, it's a mindset, right? So our marketing is going to be based around the things that I've talked about today, except that we have to put that in 30 seconds in a TV ad or something, right? Or 3 lines in a magazine ad. And that's where it becomes important that we get this in people's hands. That's how the Wii became the 3rd biggest selling home console of all time when it came out. 102 million units sold. And their marketing plan wasn't radio and television. It was mall tours. It was getting it in people's hands. Now, for us, it's influencers, it's mommy bloggers, it's mall tours. And it's our partnerships with family-oriented IPs that we are already doing. Mattel, Harlem Globetrotters. What do those things have in common? Even Major League Baseball. Families go to baseball games out here in the U.S., right? It's a family sport, Sesame Street. It's all parents with kids between the ages of 3 and 5 years old. That's who we're going to market to. So that's kind of where we're going. I'm not trying to compete with Sony and Microsoft. I'd be an idiot if I tried that. What am I going to do? Go to E3 or Gamescom after they show all of their amazing trailers, and then I come up and say, "Hey, what do you think of Shark?" It's suicide. But that's not our target. We got to put it in people's hands.
Yeah.
And you'll notice that the last trailer that we did that's on our YouTube channel, I went to Texas where the restrictions, COVID restrictions are better. I went to Texas. I went to a video game museum. I set it up, and a whole bunch of people were playing it for the first time and watched that video, and they were blown away. Moms, little kids, old people, young people, hardcore gamers, retro gamers, women, men, didn't matter. They all picked it up and they loved it. And our focus test, I have literally at this point hundreds and hundreds of people that have played Amico for the first time, and they all give it raving reviews. And these are people that love their PlayStation 5s and love their Xboxes, but it's a different, unique experience.
Yeah, I think on the last couple of streams, the more we hear from other people that are very positive. So obviously having Pete on last week was really good because it was great to have that wave of positivity about the system, as we've always sort of been indifferent to maybe the other end of the spectrum, as you've already said.
Which is fair.
But I think the one thing that every single one of us always comes back to is we need to see this thing working. We need to see how the controller works. We need to see how it all blends together, because what to us might just look like ski, playing ski on an Amico might actually be like fucking ski. It's like
it is different. It really is different. Even Astro Smash, right? Astro Smash is from a simplistic standpoint, it's literally nothing more than a ship moving left and right and firing, and rocks are coming down. That's like the most simplest game design I could tell you is shoot the rocks. Don't get killed by the rocks. Go. Here you go, right? And you might look at that and go, simple, stupid. I got 100 games like that on mobile. That could be an easy attitude. Then watch people play it. watch them, listen to the music, watch the graphics, watch the gameplay, watch how things are put together. And it's a whole different experience, you know, it really is. And there's a guy out there called Smash JT. He's got about 15,000 people on YouTube. He's a hardcore gamer. He loves Switch, he loves PlayStation, Xbox, all that stuff. He came by our office, watched his video on it. He literally said the controller is a game changer. He goes, until you put it in your hand and you feel it and you play it, you can't explain it. It's just different. And even on our YouTube channel, if you go to Intellivision YouTube channel, our very last video was basically a roundup of all the people who've played it, like people on YouTube who played it and talked about it. We took their clips and we put it all together in like a little montage as well. So just go to our channel and watch our last 2 videos. And that isn't me paying people. It's not me. You know, these aren't actors. They're not. These are people who playing it for the first time, you know. I'd love to get you guys to play it for the first time and get your thoughts and opinions on it.
I think 100% would love to.
When I'm in Europe, we're gonna. How far are you guys from London?
Not
We're
far.
close. An hour.
Okay. So what we'll do is next time I'm in Europe and we're talking about me getting over there within the next couple months. When I go over there, we're gonna all get together. We'll go to somebody's house. You name the location, or if you want to do it publicly and we can welcome in some other people. I'm gonna bring a system. I'm gonna sit down with you guys. We'll put it up on the TV, and you give me all your feedback after you play it. Sound good?
Awesome.
I think one of the things that you'd mentioned earlier that that really did strike a chord, and it is becoming so much more apparent now, whether you're a hardcore gamer or a casual gamer, the thing that is massively annoying is the price of games. So PS5 launched like end of last year, you know, brand new games like £54, £60 over here, which was about what you would expect for a new launch game.
Plus the DLC.
But now they're really pushing this £70 price point for a video game now. So the latest PS5 game was Returnal, which I've been itching to play, and then I went into our local, like it's called Game, that's our big retailer over here. And it was £70, and I thought, is this just Game charging their slightly higher pricing? So while I was picking it up, flicking through Amazon, no, £70, Argos, £70. Like, this is the new normal, isn't it? This is going to become the new normal for these new systems, is £70 for the game. Now, I mean, I'm going to get £70 worth of value out of it. I'm sure I will. But it's going to mean if a game is £70, I'm less likely to take a punt on it brand new out of the box if I'm not too familiar with it. Whereas one of the things that's really struck with me with Amico is
£7, right? Here's a game for £7, £8. So, and that's the thing that always kind of cracks me up, Ollie, is people are looking at our games and comparing them to $70 games, you know, and it's like, well, that's apples and oranges. Now, if you want to compare us to mobile games, again, be my guest, the #1 seller in the world. I'll take that all day long, 7 days a week for sure. But you know, but we do think, and that's why the 2 biggest important things to me and our consumers and customers are value and trust. If I can get those 2 things across, value and trust, then you'll buy multiple games from us at £5 to £10. You'll buy them all day long, because to you that's not even half a DLC. That's you know what I mean? Like you'll be like, wow, you know what? Every single Intellivision game I've bought has been good quality, and I've had a good time with it. I wonder what this. Oh, here's a new bowling game, or here's a new, platform game. You know what? $7, highly curated content. I'm going to get my value out of it. Why not? That's the game that we want to play.
At $9.99 per game, which is probably £7 or £8 British pounds.
Yeah.
I would buy every single release that you do at that price.
There you go. There you
Even
go.
the Care Bear one, Neil.
Throw it in.
Even
Throw it in.
Considering
I
we're
think-
launching with about 30 games, so that there's an extra $300 there, right there.
70 quid.
I think the
But
comment.
no,
that just
but you
came up
know,
on
I
the-
listened to you guys. I think it was the first time you were talking about Amico, and a couple of you. And again, fair enough. I'm not coming down on anybody, but a couple of you were like looking at this, going, I think you were looking it up on Argos or Amazon or something, and you're like, what the hell? 249 quid? Or these guys are stupid. Like that's what a Switch is, pretty much. Like what the? This is ridiculous. And again, think about a 4-player game on the couch, and think about the Switch. So you're either going to have to buy 2 Switches, or you're going to have to buy a Switch and 3 more, at least 2 more controllers or an extra Joy-Con, and then you're playing on these little 4-inch things, right? And then there's the game. So again, how much does it cost for a casual non-gaming family to play a 4-player game on the Switch, a couch co-op game? Well, it's $300 for the machine, because you can't include the light because you want to play on the TV, right? So it's $300 for the system, another $70 for 2 more Joy-Cons. And let's face it, the premium games like your Mario Karts or your Mario Parties are $50, $60, right? So there you go, right there. You're talking $450 compared to our console, which has 6 games loaded in, comes with 2 controllers, and you can load up to, as many up to 8 players with our free downloadable app, and every game is $9.99 or less, and there's no DLC, and there's no loot boxes, and there's no online monthly whatever. So when you compare us dollar to dollar to a Switch, what at first you were like $249, that's ridiculous. When you start to add it up and compare it fairly, you might say, it's actually half the price of a Switch to do what you want to do,
So will it have any online play with it at all, or is it there's no online? There's no. Will it? Obviously, you'll be able. It'll have like an online store though. As
I'll do you one better, Ryan. And again, you talk about ideas, right? Oh wow, that's a cool idea. Here's another one for you guys. You ready for this?
Go.
Okay. So we have leaderboards. Okay. Now, all video game systems have leaderboards for the most part, and they have achievements. That's become a thing, right?
Yeah.
Now, when you get your achievement for God of War, you killed 100 or you killed 1,000 people. Achievement unlocked. And you say, okay, that's pretty cool. But the reality is that another 2 million people have that same exact thing. So is it really a badge of honor? And then let's talk about leaderboards. You might score, oh man, I just had the best freaking game of my life. I've been playing this game for 6 months. I had the best game of my life. I scored 320,000 points. Let me log that in on the leaderboard. Oh shit, I'm 34,780. So, right? Neil knows. And so it's like, so something that was supposed to make you feel good, all of a sudden just shit on your parade, rained on your parade. You're just like, God, I suck. This blows. I'm never going to get into anything, right? That's what modern video games have become. True or false? True. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's another problem that I saw in the industry, and I said, you know what? I want to fix that. I want it to be cool. I want to fix that. How can I fix that? Here's what I came up with. I call our leaderboards the time and space leaderboards, and our leaderboards and achievements are locked in with each other. Bear with me here. What if you could have leaderboards, and when I say time and space, what I mean by space is meaning location, space in the planet. What if you could see what your score is in the world, in your country, or in your province or whatever, right? And the time element of that is, what if you could see your monthly, where you are monthly, where you are yearly, and where you are of all time? Now, what if you could combine all of those things together? So, blunters might say, what's my score in Astro Smash this month in the country of in the UK, not the UK, in Britain, England.
Yeah.
Sorry, stupid American. Where is my score in that? And you might say, for the month of this, and oh wow, I'm actually 4th, right? Or now let me see where I am in the world. Oh wow, now I'm like 1,025. Where am I this week of all time, or whatever? I'm sorry, this week in the whole world. Oh wow. So you're able to kind of flip around, and now you start to feel good about yourself, right? Now it's like, oh wow, I can actually, I'm like the #1 player in California in the month of June, right, for the game Astro Smash. But now when you end up winning and being that #1 player of the month, of the year, of the country, of the world, of whatever it is, that is your achievement. So your achievements, you are the only people in the world that have the achievements. That is something you can brag about, because it's like, oh, you killed 1,000 people on God of War. Yeah, you and a million other people. But Dobbs is the #1 player of Astro Smash in the month of June 2022.
Yes.
That's your badge. You will have that forever. And wait, I do you one better. When that happens, it automatically emails you a certificate that you can print out and put up on your wall and frame if you want.
Amazing.
That's good.
That is
Again,
cool.
ideas.
Yeah.
Root for us.
See, this is, I think every stream and every new piece of information we get about the system it just makes it sound so much fun. And I think that's probably the thing you want. You want it to be fun. Yeah.
I think we were all quite uneducated about the system, I would say. We didn't know much. I'll hold my hands up. I've been critical. I didn't know anything about it. I've watched certain YouTube videos and I formed an opinion based on 1 or 2 videos that I saw. But you talking tonight and listening to what you say, it sounds like a really fun, awesome system. And if you can get it in people's hands, which I really hope you do by October, I can really see this thing taken off, because one thing that I was always concerned about, and I think you've answered it tonight, was with the controller having the touch screen, it's got buttons on the top, isn't it, as well? So
it's not, big ones too, and on both sides. So, and basically the reason for that is, if you're, and again, this is something totally different. Let's say that you're a lefty and you want to hold it like this. Let's say you want to hold it like this, like a phone. Let's say you want to do it old school, like SNES and Mega Drive, and you want to hold it like this. You can, right? And so it adapts to everything. And now these are like, kind of like shoulder buttons. And, people they like to make fun of this and say, how the hell are you going to play Earthworm Jim on that? How are you going to play a platform game with that stupid thing? Well, this is what I tell people. Tell you what, you guys have a system there. I see a Super Nintendo. Hey, grab your NES controller and Super Nintendo controller or Mega Drive controller. Somebody hold one up to the screen. Huh, that's funny. This looks more like that than your PlayStation controller, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right? So which one do you think's better to play platform games on? I personally hate analog sticks. I hate them for first-person shooters. I hate them for driving games. We've gotten used to them, right, a little bit. But I think we can all remember the first time we did a dual analog stick because we were so used to keyboard and mouse for third. Still, keyboard and mouse is the best for first-person shooters. Can we be honest here? Or do we want to keep bullshitting each other and saying, oh, dual analog sticks is so great? It sucks for driving games. It sucks, right? Yet we all drink our own Kool-Aid and listen to us all say, oh, well, those controllers are the greatest controllers, and anyone who tries to do anything different is committing suicide. But let's stop bullshitting each other, right? It's like you want to know the best driving controllers? I have it hooked up to I have a Thrustmaster Ferrari Special Edition that I have hooked up to my PlayStation 4 and 5. That is the best driving controller. Best person shooters, mouse and keyboard, friends. Give me a break. And people might disagree, and that's fine because they've only grown up on that. But again, let's be honest. So and the best bowling controller was the
Wiimote.
A little stick that everybody hated before it came out.
TV.
Yeah. Everybody hated it, right?
So I don't know, Atari 2600 bowling was
Did you like that one? Was that your jam?
No, I did not.
But by the way, in television bowling back in the day, kicked Atari bowling's ass. So there you go.
I think the more I see the controller, the more interested and excited I become about it. And I think we've all said this as well. You know, it looks different, it feels different, and that's again one of the things that you kind of need to have it in your hand. You need to be able to physically see what it does and how it interacts with the games in the system.
And one of the things that you can't really tell though, you'll notice like these are very curved. Again, a lot of you grew up playing NES, right? Yeah. That brick, awful, hard, edges and hard edges and this and that. But look at this, it's very curved. Look at these buttons and how deep they are. These are deep dish buttons, your finger. And there's even like the way I designed them is that this top, it flares up a little bit so that your fingers don't like slip off them. There's a little bit of a, you probably can't tell, but you see how it goes up a little bit?
Yeah.
And then just look at the back. Look at how it's all rounded and how this is like sectioned out more so your fingers fit right in there. And because it's different, like on a normal controller, your triggers are more back here, right? Yeah. But because this is a smaller thing and the way it fits in your hands, the triggers are here, not here. So they're a lot simpler to actually control and play. And this acts like a button as well, a touchscreen button. Or if you're playing Missile Command, this is like a rollerball, right? Wherever this is, your reticle on screen is. So it's very versatile and it's simple and easy to control. And again, for non-gamers, we do this all the time. If you put down a PlayStation controller, an Xbox controller, a Switch controller, and our controller, and you put them on a table, and you ask a non-gamer or a little kid to pick the controller they want to use, 9 times out of 10, they go for this because they like the screen, and they recognize it, and they're familiar with the screen, right? Yeah. Again, non-gamer, but yeah.
It's again, I think we've mentioned it again on price point does come up, doesn't it, with where it's at. But again, seeing the controller more in some of the videos that have been coming out, and even just seeing it tonight, seeing its response, seeing the gyroscope, and even just I know it's not hooked up to a game, but just actually seeing the controller is justifying your price point for me. If this is making a bit more sense,
it's tough, right? Because I have to explain that. Because again, when you guys look at it again, and I saw it, and it was fair of you guys to do that, and that's our challenge, right? Our challenge is you look it up, you go, too expensive, stupid. What are they smoking? Get me out of here. right? But now when you start to think about it, wait a second. How many controllers have a touchscreen? This is basically a mini mobile cell phone, except without the 5G in it or 4G in it. This does everything that this does. And again, here's the fun part. This is my phone. So we can replicate everything that's in here is in here. Or sorry, everything that's in here is also in here. Gyroscope, touchscreen, speaker, microphone, accelerometer, force feedback. Everything is here, right? So we've created basically a brand new mobile device almost from scratch, and we're giving you two of them.
Yeah.
You know what? You want to know the last? You want to know the last video game system that came standard with two controllers?
SNES.
Mega Drive.
30 years ago in 1990. That tells you all you need to know about where the video game industry has gone over the last couple of decades, right?
Yeah.
This is insanity to me.
Yeah, it's definitely become that thing, hasn't it? Gaming has become more insular as they've tried to, I guess, try and make it more social in a virtual sense. I know my son games online all the time with his friends. When he would have his Xbox, they were all chatting through the Kinect. I think he enjoyed that probably more than the gaming. But he's joined the master race now, so he's just hooked into the Matrix all the time. He's on Discord with his mates. They're doing game. Yeah, it's a totally different type of social experience in the fact that it's not.
Now, Ollie, as a parent, does that concern you a little bit?
Yeah.
It used to, but now he's turned 18. It's kind of like I can't do anything about it now.
No. But I mean, if you had your way, would he not be as much jacked into the Matrix all the time, right?
100%, yeah, because it has definitely. I'm very social. I love chatting to people. I love meeting new people. He is social in his own way, but very much more introverted. But that's definitely a generational thing. It's not that he's antisocial. It's just that their way of socializing is completely different to the way that we all socialize. Yeah, and he's got his first proper part-time job at the moment, which is in retail, and it's forcing him to be social with people that he normally wouldn't be. And it's him working there in the last 6 months. You're seeing him chat to us more as parents and actually engaging with us, and you're like, wow, that's what gets lost. It's that interactivity of being with people at the same time. And when his mates, they all get together and here or their friends, obviously not quite so much now because of the pandemic, but I think if they had something fun gaming wise that they could do together, they probably would. But because it's all PC for them, they don't really game when they are sort of socially together.
That thing that you talked about, though, that worrisome, that stress, Neil, I saw you nodding your head as well, is like, see, guys, when we were growing up and when we were all younger men, we had a lot more time to play video games, right? Dobbs still does, but but now that we're married and we have kids, responsibility, more serious careers and jobs and this and that. Hey, there he is, Pete. Now that we have all that going on in our lives, like a couple years ago when Red Dead first came out around Christmas, I finally got it out of the shrink wrap. I went up into my I have like a theater downstairs, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to hook it up to the big projector and all that, and I felt guilty because it was a weekend off. I'd been working all week. My wife wants to go on a hike. My dog wants to go for a walk, all those responsibilities. And here I am spending 6 hours by myself in a dark room. Right. And so I started to feel guilty. But do you ever feel guilty when you spend time with other people laughing. And again, none of our games are like 4-hour experiences. These are 15, 20-minute games. Okay, on to the next one. Let's throw some bags for a couple minutes. Oh, that was fun. Okay, now let's do this shooter game. Let's do this trivia game. Let's do the card game, whatever. Bam, bam, bam. And you're laughing and you're having fun and this and that, right? We're not selling guilt. We're selling family time. And again, that's a really good way to sum up the difference. I've spent the last 2.5 hours talking to you guys about this, right? Our challenge is we got to show that in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Now the way to do that, yeah, we won't, in that 30 seconds, we're not going to get to our leaderboards. We're not going to get to tapping the controller and sharing games. We're not going to get to that. But what we need to show is families having fun together. That's at our core. That's what makes our focus is, and what I feel makes us different from everything else. And again, you can say, yeah, but my family plays couch co-op games on the Switch and we have a great time. Okay, fair enough. That's okay. But I'm not saying they don't have that. I'm saying that it's our focus and we're less expensive.
Yeah.
What I would say is, unless you're going to say something, Ollie, I think that would be a really nice point to end the stream, because it's getting quite late in the UK now.
Yeah.
I'm just conscious of the time. It's sort of 10:15. But what I would like to say is thank you, Tommy, for coming on this evening. Yeah. It's been a real education to us. And I myself, and I'm sure everyone else, would really like to get you back on in a few weeks' time if you're available. Because I've still got so many questions written down that I've not even got to.
I spent hours researching and I've not even come to anything yet.
But like you say, it's difficult to talk about so much in short spaces of time. I think the big one for Amico is going to be word of mouth. People playing it, telling people this is pretty cool, or however they feel about it. But I do get the feeling that when people get to play it and tell their friends about it, and then they tell 2 friends, and you get that Wayne's World skit, and then so on and so on and so on, and that's where I think it's going to be great for you. So I want to play it. I want to see what it does.
It's funny. I'm reading some of the comments. I'm just scrolling up, and one person said, but playing poker in a room together can be done with a deck of cards. Okay, but explain why poker video games are some of the most popular in the world. So it goes to reason. You can play solitaire with a deck of cards too, yet it's the number 1 played video game on the entire planet, right? So there you go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Tommy, for giving us your time this evening and being on the stream. It's been brilliant. It really has. And as I say, we'd definitely get you back on again if you'd like to.
I'd love to. It'd be my pleasure. And again, I love, I've only talked to Pete there, who's just brilliant. And and from the UK in regards to, he interviewed me on his channel and stuff. So I appreciate getting the word out and speaking to new folks, and hopefully making some new friends here today.
Oh, definitely. And I hope everyone watching has enjoyed the stream. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that thumbs up. And we'll see you all on Thursday for Essex Retro Gaming. So until then, have a nice couple of days.
Awesome.
Not everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.